Kimberly Equine Services. I thought I would do a video for you on how to wrap polo wraps. So this is a polo wrap. For those of you who don't know, it's a really, really long piece of fleece. Oh, buddy. And it has a Velcro at the end to attach it. And I have seen over the years, many people try to use polo wraps and they don't use them correctly, which can be potentially damaging for your horse's legs and for his psyche if they come off and he trips in them and, you know, all of that drama that can happen with horses. This is Sakara. Sakara is a 6-year-old off-the-track thoroughbred. He's a guy that I've had in training now for 6 months, and he's a great boy. He's going to be going home to his mommy soon, but he's going to be my polo wrap dummy today. So, polo wraps. Polo wraps are often used during training. You'll see them a lot when you see reining and dressage horses in training. A lot of times people won't use them for competition, but they will use them for training. And in dressage, you actually aren't allowed to use them in competition. But the reason we use polo wraps is because horses do something called interference, which is when their legs brush together, like this, or when their hind legs come up and hit their front legs. And what we don't want to happen is a horse interfering and hurting itself, so they can get scrapes and bumps and bruises, and not only can those leave scars, but they can leave lumps that kind of look ugly on the horse's legs, and they could injure a tendon if they bring up their back feet and hit a tendon here. So, I'm going to show you how to correctly roll and then wrap your horse's legs. So first, the first step to wrapping your horse's legs is rolling your polo correctly. Now, we're in an arena with lots of dirt, so usually I would just drop this down to the floor and leave it. But since we're in an arena and I don't want it to get icky dirty, obviously these are my nice white polo wraps that are stained because they've been very dirty many times. So first thing you do when you're wrapping or when you're rolling a polo is you want to take your Velcro, and the hard piece of Velcro is here. And you're going to take your soft piece of Velcro, and what I like to do, some people will just fold it and put it like this. I don't care to do that. I feel like it doesn't wrap as nicely, and then it's kind of hard to get to it when the time, it kind of all just unfolds when you get down to the end. So I like to actually stick the Velcro to itself. And this is handy if you're going to be washing your polo wraps, so that when you wash them, your Velcros don't get all stuck together. And then what you're going to do, so now you have this, you're going to roll the Velcro toward the inside of the roll. And you're going to try to do this really tight so that when you put the wrap on, you want even pressure. So it used to take me a really long time to do this because I was really OCD about making it really tight. But what I have discovered that if you just are able to, I kind of go back and forth with my hands one after the other to make it as even as I can. And you just don't want it to be kind of floppy and loose. You want to have a decent amount of tension in your roll. Now, rolled polo wrap. If you're just storing your polo wraps, you can tuck the end flap in like this so that they don't unroll on you. And what I have seen many people do when they're wrapping polo wraps, they will either wrap it just here to here, which doesn't really do any good for the horse at all. If anything, it puts stress on the tendon right where you don't want stress on the tendons. People have also been known to wrap too loosely, which if you wrap too loosely and you're in the middle of work, your wrap could just slide right off, and then your horse trips in it, your horse falls, everybody's injured, everybody gets hurt, and that's not a good thing either. I've also seen people come clear down the fetlock and come down here, and that's not good because then you've got way too much bandage in this joint. This joint has to be able to move freely. Another mistake people make is bringing it clear up above the knee. I've not seen that one too often, but I've seen a couple recently that have done that. And that's not a good thing either. So, because you want to be able, again, with the same thing, you want to be able to move this joint. Hey buddy, can you stand up on all fours? Good boy. So when you're going to go wrap your polo wrap, you're going to take your tail end, and I'm going to show you on this side so that you know where I am, but then I'm going to actually put it on the correct side. You're going to try and wrap it. You're going to go the other way, but there's a groove here in the tendon on both sides, and I'm just lining up with the tendon there. Now, when you wrap, you want to always wrap so that you're unrolling, and you want to always wrap towards the back of the horse, coming around the front, if that makes sense. So what I usually do when I'm wrapping is I wrap a full turn and then another full turn. And that holds the wrap in place. And then what you do is you keep kind of a steady tension, not overly tight, just enough to keep a little tension and offer some support. And you're going to go down the leg at equal intervals. So I'm going to try and make sure that as I go down, each of these little stripes is going to be roughly the same width. And when I get down here to this joint, which I already am, I'm not going to come clear down, because some people come down like this, and that puts a lot of stress here. And if I go like this, okay, just for fun, then when the horse picks up his foot, there's a lot of stress on that joint because that joint bends back and he can't bend his joint back. So instead, we're going to come just to where there's a little, almost like a fingernail right here. And usually that's my spot that I kind of look for. When I wrap, I'm going to come down just to where that little spot is. And then you come back up. Now, a lot of times there will be a little loose tail here. When that happens, you can just wrap right over top of it. And then as you go, you're going to go up and you're going to keep them even again. And you're going to come all the way up. And as you can see, I'm nearing the end of my wrap. So here's where we get to the end. And when you're at the end here, if you've done it right, you should just have enough to go one more time around right at the top. Now notice I'm not coming up onto this knee joint. I'm staying below the knee joint and making sure that his knee joint can move. So you've got all the way down to the end of the tendon, you've got support up to the knee joint, but you're not interfering with the knee joint because it has to bend. So I've seen a lot of people bring it up to this knee joint, and then how are they going to bend their knee joint? So that is the correct way to do a front leg. Now I'm going to also show you a hind leg because hind legs are a little more difficult. The length of the bone is longer, so you have to be able to use just enough polo wrap to get you down and back up again without stopping right in the middle. All right, so here is a back leg. Now, what you don't want to do when you are doing your back legs is wrap it when it's like this. So this tendon needs to be stretched, because if it's not, then when you wrap it and then it tries to stretch when it's wrapped, that could cause a serious tendon injury. And horses, with their legs, you don't want to mess around with horses' legs. So I like to tie up their tail. This guy's tail needs washed. It's pretty hard to deal with. But I just tie their tail in a little knot, like a bow knot, to get it out of the way, because wrapping tails into polo wraps is difficult. So we're going to do the same thing. As I said before, it's a little more difficult because the length of this bone is much longer than it is in the front. So when we wrap, we're going to do the same thing, starting, you know, part way back, you're wrapping the same direction. Now, when you go to the other side of the horse, you will still wrap across the front and towards the back. So when I do the back, I don't normally do as many wraps up at the top. I try to keep it as little wraps as possible because the polo wrap for the back is the same length, but as I said before, the leg is longer. You have more leg to wrap. So I will do that, and I leave a bigger space between each wrap. And as I did with the front, I'm going to come down here and find this little hard piece here on the back of this joint and wrap up just underneath that and pull it tight. And there's a little bit of a tail here, so you just wrap right over top of that tail to keep it from being flapping and looking bad. And then when you wrap back up, again, you'll leave a little bit more space and you'll kind of do a more extreme upward turn when you're wrapping up to make sure, and actually this time, I almost left too much space. But you don't want to interfere with this joint, so I'm right on the edge of that. And then just use your Velcro, attach it all. You want to make sure you're below that joint and above interfering with this joint. And voila, that's how you wrap polo wraps. And with a little bit of practice, you'll be really good at it in no time.